This is the Dava Way. At the closest point it comes to my house, a couple of kilometres away. So I'm starting the Moray Way here. As you can see, it's 3 miles to Grantown. I'll come back through Grantown and then walk home from here. The Moray Way itself is a 100-mile circular route, takes in part of the Moray Coast Trail and the Speyside Way and all of the Dava Way, which you can see heading off into the woods there, and shortly it joins the old railway, which is what it follows most of the way to Forres. I'm going to get maybe another 15 miles today and then camp and then go through Forres tomorrow. It's the first time I've done this route, and really, with a long distance trail so close to home, I shouldn't have waited this long. Anyway, time to get going and see what the Dava Way has to offer. Not far along the Dava Way is Huntly's Cave, which is in a deep ravine rimmed with spectacular metamorphic rocks. This is well worth the very short deviation from the Dava Way to see. Walking through a cutting on the old railway line, not far from Huntly's Cave and Crags. And you can see it's quite rocky round here. It would have been dramatic coming through here on the train, and it's quite interesting walking through it. Soon though, I'll be out of the trees and heading up onto Dava Moor. This is the summit of the railway on Dava Moor, 1052 feet, and it's also where it moves away from the road. The road moves away from it, which would be nice as the traffic has been quite noisy. In theory, it's all downhill to Forres from here. We'll see. Statue of a redcoat soldier at Heatherbell Cutting, place where trains on several occasions got stuck in big snowdrifts. Arriving at Dava, the old station is now a private house, so the Dava Way takes a slight deviation round it and then rejoins the railway and continues on the way to Forres. I'm now in the area burnt by the big fire almost a year ago now. Many burnt trees and blackened ground, but vast areas that were burnt over have turned white with a huge display of cotton grass, which is quite lovely. I was just expecting to see black burnt ground, but although there's patches of it, the view is dominated by the cotton grass. Cotton grass and the Knock of Brer Murray and round to the Dava Way and the old railway line. In an hour or so I'll be looking for somewhere to camp. The halfway hut, a small hut in which you can shelter from the rain or the wind, and it's just below Moray, which is up there, and surrounded by masses of gorse, and then on the far side of the railway the masses of cotton grass. Good morning from my first camp on the Moray Way. Had a peaceful night here, woken by rain once. I could hear wind in the trees. You know, looking out, I can see trees still moving, but I'd managed to pick a sheltered spot, so there was only a light wind here. I've had my first mug of coffee, and now I'm going to have a second one. I've just boiled the water for it, so let's get some of this squeezy coffee. Into the mug. That should be enough. One thing I like with this coffee is how easy it is to vary the amount. So that if you think it's too strong, you add more water. If you think it's too weak, you add more coffee. There we are. And it's also tasty enough that I can drink it black, so no need for dried milk. And along with the coffee, I shall have my sort of summer breakfast of Primula cheese spread, oatcakes, and some dried fruit. Once the temperatures have warmed up a bit, I don't bother with porridge or heating up for breakfast. Usually just have snacks like this and maybe a flapjack bar or two, and that's fine. And the temperature at the moment is 12 degrees. The overnight low was 10, so it's definitely not winter nights anymore now. Last night I had two of the 5 minutes to deli meals, urad dal and vegetable poha, both really tasty. However, after a day's walking, you do need two of them because they're around 300 or so calories each, which isn't quite enough when you've been, as I say, walking all day. Anyway, I shall now get on with my breakfast. Oh, there's a touch of sunshine. And then get up and probably show you a view of the camp. I will show the view from the tent, looking out. That line of fence is the edge of the old railway, so the Dava Way itself, and beyond it you can see part of Dava Moor covered in cotton grass and a few trees. There's bracken here I reckon you couldn't camp here probably in a month or so until it dies back in the autumn. But for the moment, this little rise is a very pleasant, sheltered spot. So I've managed to get up. Let's have a look at the camp and where I am from the outside. I spotted this little shelf below this Scots pine wood from the railway line, thought it looked promising and headed over here. And it's just right, just big enough for one person. But of course, just big enough means it is big enough. The shelf does continue that way, but it's not flat or as wide, so there's nowhere to camp there. And the same the other direction. It's possible further along there there might be a spot, but overall I think this is the best one. And if I make my way up and around the tent, you can see that's looking back over to the Dava Way, the railway line. You can see that below me it's quite boggy and tussocky. You can see the line of the burn where I got water, and some willows over there, and in the distance a wind farm, and in the distance and that way cotton grass. But coming back to the camp, round to the back, you can see here that this end of the tent at the back is higher than the front, because the area for lying down was pretty narrow, but enough. And the inner and outer are not touching, not that there's any condensation. There's enough of a breeze to keep the wind away, though the wind in the trees, it's still quite noisy. So I think away from this spot, it's a lot windier. Looking down there, I can see the gorse bushes moving about, and some of the birches in the distance. Anyway, going round the back of the tent, trying not to catch my head on the branches. I have got guy lines for these picking points, you can see, but I didn't bother putting them out. It didn't seem and wasn't windy enough. You come round to this side and it's the opposite. It's on the right here, it's dropping down a bit. The shelter, the tent, is of course the Solo Mid XL from Mountain Laurel Designs, which I really like because it's lightweight and it has tons of room. As you can see, there's a big porch for cooking, storing the pack, footwear, and inside there's plenty of room for a mat and for other items. So all in all, it's a great shelter and one of my favourites. But for now, I need to pack all this stuff up and start heading off to Forest. This is the view from the Divvy Viaduct. Long way above the Divvy River. And there's only a few points at this end of the viaduct where you can actually see over the wall. But you can see how high it is, and walking along it, the walls gradually get higher either side, and you can see less over. And to take pictures or video, you have to raise the camera up. But it was quite a feat of engineering to build this in the Victorian era, and it has since been restored to make it safe for walkers and cyclists. You can see now the walls on the left are now high enough that you can't see anything over them except sky, and on the right you can see tops of trees and the ground rising up beyond the viaduct. And this really marks the end of Dava Moor, and the railway descends gently from here through mostly, it seems, woodland, looking at the map, into Forres, where I should be in a few hours. And then here at the end, the walls drop down again, and you can see over them the river way down there. In the distance, more of the road, which is going to be fairly close to the railway soon. And there's a road that runs underneath it there. In places where the original railway bridge was taken down after the railway closed, the Dava Way Association has built bridges across rivers like this one. And I must say, the work the Dava Way Association has done to maintain the trail is very impressive. All volunteers, of course. To build bridges like this and maintain the pathway, remove fallen trees, shore up any collapsing banks. There's a lot of work involved. This is Scurrypool Bridge, which takes a road across the railway being just there to the right, and where the river here runs through a little gorge. There's the bridge again, and here's the river and the gorge. Officially, the Dava Way ends in the centre of Forres, where the Moray Coast Trail begins. Realistically, though, the Dava Way ends as you climb up these steps onto a road in Forres. From here, it's just a walk along urban streets to the town centre. So I think this is actually the end of the Dava Way. And now it's a walk through Forres. Well, in fact, I spent a night in Forres at a hotel, the only accommodation I used during the walk, but through Forres and onto the Moray Coast Trail and the sea, and the walk changed completely. The story of that section will be in my next video.